So the last time that we were together to talk about our thought life, I talked about the importance of recognizing what we're thinking, with the whole idea that we actually have a choice in choosing whether or not to believe everything we think, right? And so I challenged you in that last one to pay attention to the thoughts that were in your mind, looking for things that maybe were patterns that came before you would get upset, or things maybe that aren't true. And so in the last couple of weeks, I've been doing the same thing because, well, I like to do that because I don't want to tell you to do something that I myself haven't experienced. And so what I found was there was a particular thought that kept coming at me all the time. And it sounded a lot like this: you better get it all done, or if you don't get everything done, it's going to. And the more I paid attention to the thought, the more I realized it would kind of stop. But what would happen is it would take over in my mind of images of things kind of falling apart. Someone would be upset with me. I would get to the end of the day and it wouldn't be done, and I would have let somebody down. You know, old patterns of thought that would just kind of take over. And I realized then that it's not enough to just recognize the thought. It's like, all right, I get that that thought is there, but now what? What do I do with it? And so the second part of this 3-part series is going to talk about replace. We have to replace these thoughts in our brains that aren't necessarily true, because that thought isn't true. That thought makes me want to strive. I better figure it out. I better. And that I takes the focus off of God and the fact that He is in control and He knows best how to walk me through my day, and that He is faithful to actually do that. So I knew that that particular thought was a lie, but I didn't know what else to do with it because it would take over. I would get frustrated with the kids. I would start pushing myself to do more. You know the routine. I know this is not an uncommon thought for many of us. So I sat down and thought, okay, normally what happens is I will stop and I will replace that thought with what I know to be truth. But this is not just about what I would do. As I was going through my normal quiet times, I came across again about Jesus when He was tempted in the desert. It's in Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 through 11, and I've included it down below this video so you can read it. But what it talks about is how Jesus got to a point where He had been fasting for 40 days. He was hungry, He was tired, and we all get worn out each and every day too. And that's when the enemy came to strike. He didn't strike right after he'd been baptized. He didn't strike on day 5. He struck on day 40. And so He knew that Jesus was weak. And I think the enemy does the same thing for us. But what Jesus did was what caught my attention is that the enemy would throw lies at Him, and He would replace those lies with what God really said, the truth. And the third time he did that, the enemy had to flee. He left. He knew he couldn't get into Jesus. And that made me think, when I replace the thoughts that are running around in my mind with God's word, what happens? Well, I started striving, and I would say, all right, I remember Psalm 46:10 that says to cease striving and know that I am God. And I would say, all right, God is in control. Having God's word made me think differently, gave me a chance to pause before I allowed that thought to become a belief and then direct my actions. This is what it means to replace the lies that we have maybe been believing, or the lies the enemy tries to hurl at us. This is what it means to replace it so that we can stop it before it takes hold, right? And if we can stop it before it takes hold, we can then be reminded that it's not about us. It's not about us being in control, and that truly it's much better when God is. So this week, I want you to do this. I want you to take those thoughts that you have been thinking and examine them again, what's going on in your brain, and start replacing them with what God's word says instead. And it could be experiences you've had in the past that you know that God has been faithful to you in a previous time of stress or chaos. It can be a time when you are being attacked maybe about your body, and you can be reminded of how beautiful you are according to God, or according to people in your world who really don't see you as anything ugly. Maybe it's a lie about you're never, ever, ever going to get out of this mess, and you can look back at God's word and see how God is faithful to carry us through no matter what's facing us. Ladies, when we take the moment to recognize what we're thinking and then replace it with the truth, we can live a thought life that better reflects who we really want to be, and we can then live in peace each and every day, no matter how much chaos comes our way. The next time, we're going to talk about how to resist, because the thoughts keep coming no matter how much we replace them with the truth, but there is victory. Thank you, and I hope you have a great day.